Sowore saying that the protest must, those were his words, must go on, no court order issued against the protest?
Well, no, nothing effectively stands against the protest, despite the said order that was issued, which was clear. The order was restrictive as to geographical locations that Sowore shouldn't go to. And that's where the problem is. That's where the controversy stems from. So Sowore is right when he says that nothing stops the protest from going on tomorrow. However, the government and its agents, out of a certain trepidation and on fear of the unknown, have approached the court, which is valid and legal, to say it will be tantamount to breaching national security if they approach certain areas, which includes the presidential villa and particularly the National Assembly and the Shehu Shagari Way. And that's a big problem.
Eagle Square, too.
Eagle Square, that's a big problem, because sometimes, if you say presidential villa, it's understandable because we know what possibly can happen, especially given this time where we're talking about news of coups and counter coups. You don't really think it's appropriate for people power to be taken straight to confront the presidential villa and to make certain demands. But the two things here, the validity of the demand and a certain order that places restriction. But because I'm a lawyer, yep, the tradition is that whatever proceeds from the court, however, stupid it may appear, however incongruous, you must be obeyed.
But they said they've not been served. That's one. Secondly, he also says, claims that the order lapsed.
Oh, well, these are difficult issues. The reason is that because there's some measure of subjectivity here. If you say you're not served, service is a very important process in law. However, there are what we refer to as constructive service. And so, again, it's expected. And it's also very important when the court emphasizes personal service. If not, there are other modes of service. You could publish it in a newspaper, and then it will be deemed as constructive and proper service. We don't know whether that has been done. However, the highly respected Omoyele Sowore, who I think is about the only last man standing when it comes to integrity in pursuing a cause for behalf of the people, is that he kind of feigned ignorance that this is what the order says. But again, and that's why I consider that what he said is right, that nothing stops from the protest. However, what happens? There's a problem. When you say, they were stopped short of mentioning the Unity Fountain because it's on the Eagle Square, right beside the prestigious Transcorp Hilton. The idea is that since the days of Buhari, the APC-led governments have appeared to be very, very afraid of protest, whereas they rode on the back of protest to actually oust a regime. However, to think that you fence off completely the traditional central point for protest, for demonstrations in Nigeria, because protest, as a matter of fact, is fundamental, is a right under Section 39, and then also Section 40. People must express themselves, no matter how.
What is currently going on in America, where we borrowed the presidential system, protest against monarchy, they call it.
Of course, no to kings.
Yeah, that's it, kings, but they're talking about monarchy.
Yeah, of course. So. The thing is this, government must appreciate, especially APC-led governments. And I'm referring to historical point of Buhari and now President Tinubu. You must allow the people to vent their disagreements against you at every level and at every point and any way they want to. The reason is that it's an opportunity to disabuse, to disabuse and take away the wind from the sail of violence.
Now, the question that people will always ask, why are they afraid of protests? Because we know that, for one, Tinubu was a master at organizing protests as the president. But Sowore says that the detention of Kanu is illegal and unlawful. He says the Court of Appeal discharged and acquitted him. If that holds sway, why did the government not obey the court order? If that holds sway,
I think that there was a Supreme Court decision actually that reversed that particular decision of the Court of Appeal.
So he's wrong.
No, he's right to the extent that there was a time that the Court of Appeal ordered the immediate discharge and acquittal of Nnamdi Kanu. At that point, they should have released him. However, they also are within the law to keep him for the purpose of
security reasons.
No, for the purpose of appeal. Okay. But again, with proper orders of the court. So we don't know whether they did that. However, The point is that our president just, issued a gale of presidential pardons recently. And again, I'm against all those persons who are calling for the review of what the president has done. No matter whatever crime it is, no matter how heinous that crime is, if the president decides that he's pardoning such a crime, nobody can question the president. Nobody can call for a review of such things. Now, that kind of presidential power, that prerogative of mercy, that pardon that can be issued for a president, no, didn't go. No, I'm coming. Didn't go to an important individual like Nnamdi Kanu, who actually commands a lot of followership that determines the security of a whole region of a country. So the question is, I would have be part of a protest that simply says free Nnamdi Kanu because of what he represents, what he stands for, and that would be stronger. But to anchor it on the point that there are cases in court that are being challenging or trying Nnamdi Kanu for terrorism, and Nnamdi Kanu's lawyers are actually following the order. They have challenged the propriety of the charges, especially by raising preliminary objection, challenging the jurisdiction of the court. So there's a proper order going on. I will not subscribe to truncating this system, no matter how feeble or weak it is, or how corrupt you may accuse it of, because there's still a whole semblance of order in our country as it is. But if you say legitimately that you could not have arrested a man illegally in Kenya, carried out one form of extraordinary rendition, have him arrested, they kept in detention since 2021. Those who have been arrested for likely charges in other crimes have been tried and convicted and sentenced. You cannot keep him for 5 years going and nothing happens, and then security of a particular region is being. I just came back from the southeast where I went to bury my father-in-law. I know how palpable the insecurity situation is. The Monday shutdown is still there. So if you are saying that this man demands justice, have him released, and you are addressing the president on that ground, right, I believe that's a very fair demonstration.
There's also the case for, I don't know whether you remember him, the bearded pastor, King.
Yes,
people also brought up that issue. And then the question, some people are saying that even the government is rehabilitating known terrorists. On this issue, I'm discussing it with Dr. Amadi when he comes on the question of prerogative of mercy of the president and the clamor, and then the Minister of Justice has talked about review. But so what we're saying here is that tomorrow, is Sowore right to say, just to cap it, that the protest can go on?
Of course, yes. Free Nnamdi Kanu protest is legitimate, it's legal. But
they says it goes beyond free Nnamdi Kanu. Actually,
of course, the truth is that
justice.
Clearly, where justice is a matter of perception. So in the perception of Sowore and those who support this particular protest, they believe that Nnamdi Kanu is being oppressed, and the state, even though President Tinubu didn't really order the arrest of Nnamdi Kanu, but he had the opportunity to order his Attorney General to simply withdraw those charges. Because what are we talking about? If people like Omoyele Sowore, men of integrity, now take it up, because the man, call it whatever name you want to call it, that he's baiting the authorities to do whatever he wants to do. The man has laid down his life, and that's why people like us respect him, immeasurably. He has laid down his life for the liberation of this country. And when he says he's taking interest in a particular matter at that point, I believe that a responsible government should, consider negotiating. Because a man works in the interest of the country. But do not think that Sowore is not that kind of person that you will use force to browbeat and intimidate. In fact, he welcomes it. If you like, kill him, because he believes in the struggle. Unfortunately, he is one of those, unfortunately for them, he's one of those who still have that puritanical mentality about, unionism, not this, this who have been corrupted. He believes strongly that the cause is for them. And when you threaten him with violence, he's happy. So we do it. And again,
because you play into his hands. The
yes, but again,
there was a little argument we were holding just a while ago. The court says you can go to the presidential villa, you can go to Eagle Square, but then you can't go to the NAS. But the argument is that NAS is supposed to be a parliament of the people. Should the court even say don't go to the parliament?
The point is that nothing should stop a Nigerian from protesting anywhere. It's not because of a palpable insecurity situation. Why some of us are afraid that, look, if you march to the presidential villa, no, not at this time. But no, not at NAS, not at Eagle Square or the Unity Fountain. So that alone, we commend the court for recognizing that it cannot in any way reduce the right of the Nigerian to protest under Section 39 and Section 40. However, However, this government must realize if you continuously and constantly stifle Nigerians from demonstrating, you don't expect them to go and demonstrate in the bush. They want to demonstrate where the whole world can see them. They want to demonstrate in Unity Fountain near the international resort of the Transcorp Hilton. Let the world see them. If you think you don't want to give them an opportunity to ventilate, oh my goodness, you should know what to expect. I don't want people taking up arms. I don't want people getting so frustrated and thinking that our government does not respect law.
Right.
I would have wanted to take a cue, from the DSS. The DSS have operated on the path of civil responsibility in recent times. They didn't arrest those group of persons who declared a shadow government, wanted a parallel cabinet to President Tinubu's cabinet. They went to court. And that's a good point. See, engage Omoyele Sowore is such a cerebral and highly intellectual person. He can engage because, and again, more importantly, is the purity of his engagement. Right. He's not bedeviled with all sort of political connotations to his struggles. And I think if we do that, we can have a way out in there. Nnamdi Kanu is such an important person at this time, so that we can have some peace in the southeast.
Here, vibrating lawyer and Arise analyst. Thank you for your vibrations. Interesting vibrations.
Thank you.